What's up? It's your boy Carcino here. Let's get into it. Francis Ngannou or Ngannou, if you're American. Now, let's get into this UFC, Dana White, and Francis situation. Now, Francis is a Canadian, French, Canadian, Nigerian who basically came to this sport as an underdog. Showed tremendous power they hadn't seen in the UFC in a while. And was looking like he was going to be the next big money blockbuster for Dana White. All of a sudden, for some reason, he wanted to return to France before his first fight with Stipe. Strange that Dana White, the president of UFC, who has always been in this whole bubble of mistreating his fighters, in conflict with those who represent your sport. Dana White believes he's bigger than the athletes that fight in the UFC. He wants to be Vince McMahon. He's just not good at it. And this is what Brock Lesnar had to say about Dana White. Said he wanted to be Vince McMahon, except for Vince knows what he's doing. Now, Dana White has done these practices to many other fighters. Stipe couldn't stand Dana White based on the same things. And he was heavily putting this fight together, hoping that Stipe would lose. He wanted Francis to win. And if you ask me, I think Dana bet money illegally. I believe he betted money. In my opinion, Dana White betted money on this fight and took the odds. And was thinking Stipe would be knocked out. And when the fight first happened, it looked like the Cleveland, Ohio native was in trouble. The firefighter, but he stayed true, got through it, and like a true champion, he pulled it out. And Dana White, who don't train UFC fighters, who's not a part of the camp, blames going to France as the reason he lost. His ego got high and he lost. And Dana White goes out and completely blasts his fighters, to me, which is the dumbest thing you could ever do as a president of the company. Because now if you do that, then hell, I get to blast you. Well, you look at it from different angles. You look at it from different eyes. You look at it from a whole different point and narrative. Dana White has shown once again that if you don't bend to his will, he'll punish you. Then you got Sean O'Malley, who comes in and just takes up for whatever Dana White says. He's another joke. Can't listen to a word he says in the situation. They have no respect for the actual fighters. So when Stipe won, he really gave a speech blasting Dana White and wouldn't even acknowledge him. Dana was considered to be a clown. Me, I'm boycotting the UFC until Dana White's gone. So if he's gonna stay, I'll be staying away from the UFC. That's just how it is. He's a parasite, a talentless joke. And he's done nothing but ruin the UFC. And everybody else been trying to put out his fires. But he's really walking around like a nutless monkey. He has no idea of what the hell he's doing because he's really nothing for him to do at this point. He's the face of a failing industry. The UFC is not thriving, it's failing. And it's failing miserably. And we're going to get to the why. But let's get back to Francis Ngannou. I always say Ngannou, but it's Ngannou or Ngannou, any which way you want to say it. But he had to go through a whole obstacle just to get back. They were trying to get John Jones back in there to come up and fight him and all of these different things, and that wasn't going to happen. And he finally got his match after he fought my man Lewis, and they danced around the ring for a minute, and the fight was boring. Dana White lost his mind, went crazy on the podium, and was like, well, um, me and Francis, ego gets in the way. And, you know, that he went to France, before his first fight with Stipe. And, you know, we've been the same way ever since. We had text correspondence, and since then, we've been what we are right now. And I'm like, I couldn't work with a person like that who's all emotional and going up, and because of one fight, you want to yell and get mad at somebody for a lifetime because the fight didn't go the way you expect. Fights go in different directions. They go up, they go down, they go all around. That's how a fight works. Now, when you see all of this play out, you start asking yourself serious questions. Like, what is going on here? What's happening? What is my next move? That's what you want to ask yourself. Wow, just saw something crazy. What does this man want? He wanted a new contract. He felt after beating the odds, came back after the Lewis fight, got back to Stipe, beat Stipe, and won the title, that a new contract would be in the works. This was not to be. The contract that they presented him with is one of no freedom, meaning that he wants to be able to have his, we're right back at it, his sponsorship come in. Right? He want to be able to have his sponsors. In the negotiation period. He wanted health care. UFC has, their health benefits and all that. He wanted to be put on the health benefit plan. But you got to understand, this is a triple champion, right? And you don't want to give him, his promotion, none of it, give him his flowers. You don't want to do that? Why not? Why this man can't get his just due? Where is his proper etiquette? To me, it was embarrassing for the league. Saying, oh, well, if you give that to him, then you got to give the next guy a little bit too. Well, okay, if they become a triple champion in the face of your organization as the champion, then yes, they deserve these things. But when you have people like Sean O'Malley working with you and spreading the Dana White version of the agenda, then of course. But see, the UFC don't have to follow the rules of a boxing organization. They don't have to follow the Muhammad Ali Act, which rightfully pays the fighters what they're supposed to get paid. And that is an 80-20 split. And 80 is in favor of the fighter. Now, because of that, the fighter has to pay for almost everything. The promoter puts up the money to get the 20%. But at first, they're taking losses until they build you up into a name that could bring in the revenue. Now, the way I look at it is the negotiations went in a way that should never had. It should have never went in the direction it did. They had Francis Ngannou, if y'all want to say it that way, go up against what's his name, his former sparring partner. And when that happened, it was a very telling scene that happened between these guys when they were fighting, and I was watching it. They knew each other. They spar against each other. Those fights normally don't break out to, well, they all know each other's moves or things that they work on. That's why people hate fighting sparring partners, because they know so much about what you're going to do. And Francis knew how to fight Gagne. Because he's going to look pretty early, but he's going to get tired. And I could slam this guy. I'm not going to probably be able to knock him out or land those big blows. So let me not punch myself out. Let me just grapple this guy and just muscle him around and get all these slams on him. And he's going to be so tired trying to fight me, he's going to burn himself out. And I'm just going to stay on top of him, hammer fist. So they had no choice but to give this guy the belt. And Dana White wasn't even there to put the belt around his waist. Not that he cared, but the media, the MMA world cared. Why wasn't Dana White there? Dana's always there to put the belt around their waist. Putting the belt around people's waist is a way Dana White stays relevant. As I told you before, Dana White was hoping that he would lose, and then that would strengthen his position for the championship. Because even after that fight, he went and made another fight to make an interim champion and made Gagne the champion. It just was so stupid to have a champion versus champion. It's like, it don't even make sense. This guy's not the champion. But okay. So now that we have one champion, the best thing we could do is find a way to try to screw him over. That didn't work. And all these fighters are getting smarter. They saying, well, I could do a celebrity fight like with Tyson Fury and get my money. Which he could. Now, according, the UFC was offering him an $8 million fight to fight John Jones. And he turned it down. Because basically it wasn't about the money. At this time, it's about principle. And when you're treating me less than a man, now standards come into play. Now, all these different things that people worship don't really matter. You're affecting this guy's livelihood, and you're going to try to drown him out of the sport by making it look like this is the only way he could go to fight. And saying, well, he can go somewhere else and fight lesser opponents. The best fighters are here. For how long? And who are they? Unless you're a diehard MMA fan, you're not going to know these fighters. But let's look at your track record. Look at what you did to BJ Penn and his contract situation, and he got up and left and went to Pride. And then you had Demetrius Johnson, the best fighter probably in MMA history. One of the best fighters in UFC history by far. You created the flyweight division and then turned your back on it and kept threatening to shut it down because he kept winning. That's why they kept calling him the belt collector. You see, DJ was somebody you could have promoted had you actually gave a damn to try to promote. He didn't want much. He just really wanted respect and wanted to be promoted. You know, Dana talking about, well, we lost so much money in DJ fights. We just didn't see worth it. And we're just like, we're losing money here and we might as well shut this thing down. It's a lie. The real problem is they never promoted the fights. They set the cards up to lose money. They wanted to make it look like DJ's not worth the money. We gave him a headliner. He was the main guy here, and these are some of the lowest pay-per-views we've ever had. So we told you, DJ ain't the guy. And we might have to shut down the division. When the truth of the matter is, they started a women's division and they promoting the women's fighting. That's where their new money was, and that's what was saving the UFC. When Ronda Rousey came in and they created the women division and all of this, that gave new revenue to the UFC and opened up a whole new door thanks to Strikeforce. So, just letting it be known, that was Strikeforce that built Ronda Rousey up. So, man, I'm tired. You know how you go to sleep, wake up, and you're still tired? That's me right now. Well, Dana White likes being in that seat. He likes being in power. So they's like, well, Dana White's a known face without the UFC. He's the only constant that we have. The problem with the UFC is simple. The disrespect over the years of its fighters, the altering of fighters and their promotional brands and their marketing opportunities are cut short. So their whole lifeline is the UFC. And when you put fighters in a box like that, they're gonna be very pissed off. They gotta, get their own medical. They have a company that's not really trying to give them medical and insurance and benefits and things to take care of their families. They're not making that kind of money. And fighters are seeing it. The pay grade is a lot less than fighters and pro boxers. And you watching boxers fight one time a year. Meanwhile, you're fighting 3 times, knuckles broke, but you still got to go into a fight because you need to make this extra money. People who were sitting at home doing podcasts talking about the fights were actually making more money than the fighters that was actually fighting. It was like pathetic and sad. Like Joe Rogan was making more than damn near everybody on the fight card. It was crazy. So, that's a problem when you see that happen. Where the announcer is making more than all the fighters in the main event and everybody. That's just crazy. I've never seen that in a sport before. So, now that you have that and you have that known, this man was allowed to assault his wife, right? Dana White. Remain president of the company, no punishment whatsoever by anyone. He didn't lose anything. He still gets to go up on the podium, talk about fights, and act like nothing's happened. And you know what y'all gonna do? Support the next UFC event. After all that's happened, y'all gonna support the next UFC event. I'm not, but y'all will. So anyway, I'm out. I watch Bellator, but I will not support the UFC anymore Done. Don't forget to subscribe to the page. My Cash App is Carcino, as it says in the banner. And I'm out.